Hello guys, my name is Nandashekar and you are watching Tech My Hair. So in this video, we're gonna talk about CTS interview questions. This is part 2 video. If you don't watch part 1 video, please do watch that video. The link is provided in the description. And if you are watching our channel for the first time, please do subscribe to Tech My Hair channel. So we're gonna talk about few interview questions that might be popped in the CTS interview. So the question is, explain black box testing and the types of black box testing. So what is meant by black box testing? So as you can see here, this black box testing is one type of software testing method. If you design a software product or a software application, we should ensure the functionality of that software is working good or not, is working perfect or not. So to test that, we do have some testing methods like black box testing, white box testing. So in this video, we're going to talk about black box testing. White box testing can be discussed in part 3 video. So what exactly? Now let us talk about what is black box testing. So this black box testing is a testing method in which it takes input and it takes one input and it gives the output. So it majorly concentrating on the input and output. So here it doesn't consider few of the things like internal code structure or implementation details or internal paths. So let us take an example. So here this black box testing, I want to test my login form. So here I am testing the login form. Here I am not bothering about what is the code written for that. Here I am just checking whether my password length is 8 characters or not, and whether my password is having capital M or not, whether my password is having digits or not, whether my password is having lowercase letters or not. So all these are the things we are not bothering about the internal code or internal code structure or implementation part. Rather, we are just checking whether we are able to get the desired output or not. So it mainly concentrate on the input and output. Okay, now so this mainly concentrate on the software requirements. Based on the software requirements, we do this black box testing. So this black box testing is also known as a behavioral testing. And let us talk about the types of black box testing. So there are 3 types of black box testing. First one is functional testing, second one is non-functional testing, and third one is regression testing. So the functional testing talks about the functionalities of a software. As we has already talked about the login form, so we are testing all the scenarios of that software product. Not only that, we can test the dashboard, whatever we want. We can check whether the payment gateway is working fine or not in our product. So each and everything, whatever we want, we can test the functionality of a website, or we can test the functionality of a software application or a product, whatever we have designed. So in either we can't test these functionalities. Instead of that, we will test the non-functional things like performance, scalability, and usability. So the performance in the sense, if user clicks after a successful login, if user clicks on submit button or login button, what is the time that is taken to redirect from this login page to the dashboard page? So it's the time taken for each and every request and response. So in this performance testing, we will talk about all these things. And the scalability in the sense, what if 100 users are logged into our software application, and how our software application is behaving, how much the people usability in the sense, to what extent it is good for the customer for uses of this application. So all these things can be talked in this non-functional testing. The third type of black box testing is regression testing, where in this regression testing, we will be talking about the enhancements. So after all bug fixes from functional testing and black box test and the non-functional testing, so if I want to add any enhancement, which our product is in maintenance stage, and I want to add some new features to that. If I want to add new features to that, it should not deviate the new code, whatever we are adding, the enhancement, whatever we are adding, should not affect the old code or existing code. This can be tested using regression testing. So these are the 3 types of black box testings we had. So coming to the next question, Next question is, can you print your name without using semicolon? So this might be the question you might be asked in an interview. So yes, the answer is big yes. You can print your name without using semicolon. So for that, let's see. First, we can do this program in different ways. So first one is using if statement. So first, let me write a program. So I'm writing my program in one of the programming language, that is C. So I'm writing if I am solving this problem. If printf of my channel name is TechMyHire. So I'm writing that. So by this we can write our program without using semicolon. See here I am not using semicolon for my printf, and I am able to print my output. Okay, now see what is happening here. So print, as we all know, printf is a console output function, and for each and every function it has action and it has reaction. This is Newton's third law. For every action we has opposite and equal reaction. So printf is a function, it has an action and it has a reaction. So the action is to print whatever we do right in the printf, that will be printed on the console. That is an action. And what is the reaction? Reaction is nothing but a return type. Return type is number of characters it printed. So number of characters it printed is 10. So the return type of this printf is 10. And the action that is performed is whatever the thing we have been written in the printf will be printed on the console. Okay, so this entire thing is returning 10. Yes, 10 not equal to 0, and it is true. Here we are not writing anything. So if it will come out of the loop, and the void main, we won't return anything, right? So this got terminated of our program. This terminated our program. So this is a way where we can write, we can print our name without using semicolon. Yeah, coming to the next way, that is using switch case. We can write our name by using switch case also. See, say void main. So in this void main, I am going to write switch case. In this switch case, I gonna print. I am writing my printf statement with TechMyHire. So I am writing a switch case like this. So as I was already mentioned, printf will print the entire thing on the console, and printf will return the number of characters it printed. Number of characters printed is 10. So switch case doesn't have any cases, right? So we will come out of the switch case, and there is nothing to do. The program will be terminated, and the output for this program is TechMyHire. Yeah. Now coming to the third one is using macros, and fourth one is using loops. Let us try to do that also. Using macros. Macros in the sense, we all know about macros. Macros in the sense hash defined. We use some of the macros like hash if, hash endif, elif. We will use different types of macros. One of the macro is hash defined. So I can write hash define print as my macro. So printf, I am writing printf of TechMyHire. So in function void main, what I am going to do is, in if I am going to call that macro, if of print. So by this way we can write, we can print our name without using semicolon. And there is last thing, using while loop or for loop. See, I am writing my main method. So here I am writing while loop, while of, I am using not. Why I am using not? It should not. It should only execute for one time, right? So I am using not printf of TechMyHire. So this printf of TechMyHire will print TechMyHire on the console, and this TechMyHire is returning 10. So 10 not equal to 0. 10 not equal to 0. Right, it is false, so we will get out of the loop, and nothing, there is no statements in the function, so the program got terminated. So by this way we can write our program, we can write a program to print our name without using semicolon. This is second question. Now let us move on to the third question, that is what are the types of polymorphism that is available in Java. So see, before going to the types, let us talk about the what exactly polymorphism is. Polymorphism in the sense, poly means many, morphism means forms. Polymorphism means many forms. Example, real-time example is take your mobile on your camera. So there are so many modes. There is beauty mode, portrait mode, landscape mode. See, camera is one thing, and that is existed. There are different modes. One thing exists as many forms is known as a polymorphism. There are few examples for that. Let us take liquid water. Water as a water. What is a liquid? We all know that. So if you freeze that, it is being converted into solid. So again, if you give some heat, if you give some external energy like heat, then automatically the water is being converted into water vapor. Here, water is one form which exists in many forms. Water is one thing that is exists in many forms. And a human behavior. Yes, human is a brother, human is a father, human is a son. So he is also acting in many forms, like computer on and off button. If you on, the system gets the operating system get loaded into our system. If you do force shutdown, so the system got off. So one button it is utilized in 2 weeks. Yes or no? So these are all the some of the live in examples and practical examples. Now let us move on to the types of polymorphism we have. There are two types of polymorphisms. First one is static polymorphism. Second one is dynamic polymorphism. The static polymorphism is also known as a compile time polymorphism, and this dynamic polymorphism is also called as a runtime polymorphism. Let us talk about static polymorphism. Before going to these definitions, let me give an example. Real-time example. See, I am a person who I want to go to Mumbai for a meet. Okay, if I want to go to Mumbai for a meet, what I was planning is I was planning to book a cab to go to Mumbai. So I called one of the cab driver, that is Sachin, and I asked him about whether there is any availability of car to make a move to Mumbai. So what he said is, yes, I do have a free time and I will take you to the Mumbai. Okay, so now I said so and so date, November 4th at 5 p.m. I gonna want to move to Mumbai. So what he said is, I will come to you and I will pick you and I will drop you at that location. So at November 4, he came and he picked me and he dropped me at the Mumbai at the location. So I attended that meeting and I returned back to my city. So this is entire thing is happened. And let me tell you one more example. See here, again after 1 month, again I want to go to a meet to Delhi. So again I called the Sachin and I was asking for the cab. So what he said is, sir, I don't have any free time to drop you in the Delhi. Instead, what you can do is, you can ask our traveling office, you can call to a traveling office and you can book a car. Our traveling office people can help you to drop you in the Delhi. So what I did is, I called to the traveling XYZ traveling company, which is suggested by Sachin. I called them and I said, so and so, I want to move to Delhi on so and so date. So what they were doing is, they were giving us, they was gathering the information from me that do you want AC car or not AC car, or do you want driver or not, do you want which type of car do you want. So they were asking all these things. After gathering all these things, they said so and so, they were asked about me. They had gathered all the information from me, like address, date, time. So they have gathered all these things and they said, okay sir, we will get back to you on that day. So on that day, November 5th, what I did is, the car came to me and I went to Delhi and I have attended meeting. So you have observed two scenarios here. One, Sachin has dropped me in Delhi. One, unknown person has dropped me in Delhi. So if you think about the first scenario, I know who is coming to me, and that Sachin is coming to me and he was dropping me in Mumbai. So this is known as compile time polymorphism. The things whatever we are occurring is known in advance. The thing that is being happened is at compile time. The polymorphism that is occurred at compile time, not at runtime. So see here, dynamic polymorphism. I don't know who is driver is coming at that point of time. This is happening at runtime. This is no, I don't know who is coming. But in first case, I know Sachin is coming to me and he is picking me and he is dropping me in Mumbai. But I don't know who is coming to me who is coming to me for my Delhi trip. So this is the difference between compile time polymorphism and runtime polymorphism. The polymorphism which is occurring at compile time, this is occurring at runtime. And the example for this static polymorphism is method overloading, and the example for dynamic polymorphism is method overriding. Yeah. Now let us move on to the next question. The next question is about what are foreign keys and what are primary keys. So see, so we all know this is a very important question for interview. This is question from database management system. So if I design a table, in that table I want to find, there are so many columns like student name, student roll number, student marks, student grade, student address, all these things. I want to find the student name with so and so specific marks. So there might be two students with the same name. Yes or no? So what we are doing is we are giving roll number as a unique identity, where two names with the two children with the same names will not have any conflict. So here we are giving roll number which is unique. This uniqueness is given. The primary key talks about the uniqueness. To identify any row or a tuple in a relation or in a table, we can use this primary key. Primary key talks about the uniqueness, and that uniqueness is used to identify a row in a table or in a relation. We call in relation data in RDBMS we call table as a relation. Okay now. So this primary key is used to find the uniqueness, to find the row in a table. Coming to this foreign key will talks about the relationship between two tables. So if I want to link two tables, we use this foreign key. Okay now, and this primary key has a feature called it is unique. So no two numbers should be same and it should not be null. So uniqueness and not null are the properties of primary key, whereas foreign key might have duplicate columns. The foreign key, whatever we are talking, that foreign key might be duplicate, and the foreign key might be null also. Okay now, so this is the difference between primary key and foreign key. Now let us talk about the importance of foreign key. Why do we need this foreign key? So there are two tables. One is student table and second one is course table. So what I did is I have written a student name, student ID, and in the second table what I did is student name, course ID, course name. So here student ID is acting as a foreign key for the next table, because to link these two tables we use foreign key, right? So what I did is I do merge the both tables. Why can't I merge? Yes, I can merge. So here we are only having 5 columns. If there are hundreds and hundred columns, then partitioning into tables based on the relationships is very important for searching, for retrieving, for performing all the code operations. That is the reason why partitioning the tables is important, and getting the relationship via foreign key is also an important thing. Yes. Now let us move on to the next question. Next question is about finding the difference between args and KW args. So as you can see here, this args, when do we use args? Args, if I don't know the parameters that is passing to this function in advance. See here I have passed hello, welcome to Tech Mahir. In the next go, what I am going to do is I am going to pass only hello. In the next go, I am going to pass welcome to Tech Mahir. So if I don't know the parameters in advance, what I can do is I can pass as an argv. Argv is a list where it can collect the number of parameters that is being passed in the function. If I don't know the parameters, number of parameters to be passed to the function in advance, I can use argv. What is this KW args? KW args in the sense, if my keyword argument whichever I am passing is of type dictionary, then I can use KW args. So as you can see here, my function I am passing hello, welcome to Tech Mahir. So in this here, in the function definition, I am using *args v. So this is a list, as I was already mentioning list. I am looping it to for loop and I am printing that. So output here is hello, welcome to Tech Mahir. So here see what I'm doing is I'm in KW Works. What I'm doing is I'm passing tech my hire with the keys. So it's the key value pair which is type dictionary. So if I want to pass that, we do have items. This is a function of dictionaries where we can print key and value. So this is the difference between args and KArgs, which is a very important question for freshers and for experienced guys. So that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, please share it to your friends, or if you are new to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. And the part 3 video, whatever we are going to release, is the questions that are asked for 2021 students, which is in which some of the colleges has completed their interview. So you please click bell icon for instant notifications. Thank you for watching.